Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring the connection between music and the human brain. It's pretty fascinating stuff. Get this, there are people who, because of brain damage, physically can't tap their foot to a beat. Like, imagine that. And did you know some scientists believe that music might actually be older than language? I mean, we're talking 40,000-year-old bone flutes that seem to be playing something like the blues scale to help break down this symphony of information. We've got an expert with us today. Even if you've never played an instrument, you know that pull to move to music. It's like, why do our bodies just want to move to a good groove? I read that people, even without any musical training, can recreate the tempo of familiar songs really well. Why is that?
Well, that seemingly simple act of, tapping your foot or nodding your head actually reveals a lot about how our brains work with music. There's a theory that we all have what's called a music acquisition module in our brains, kind of like the module we have for language. It's like built-in musicality that helps us understand music really easily. And get this, studies have shown that babies as young as 6 months old can detect changes in melodies way before they can even talk.
It's like we're all born with a conductor in our heads. Here's the thing, though. Music and dance exist in every culture throughout history. If music is just auditory cheesecake, as cognitive scientist Stephen Picker once said, implying that it has no real purpose, why is it so universal?
Yeah, that's a question that's really puzzled scientists and philosophers for a long time. There are theories that go beyond that idea of music as, just pleasure. One idea is that it helps with social bonding, especially between mothers and infants. Think about lullabies. They create a strong connection and calm the baby.
So music could be like a form of communication, even older than language?
Exactly, yeah. And imagine early humans working together, maybe hunting or building something. Synchronized rhythmic movement, maybe driven by music and chanting, could have been key to their success.
So music was the original team-building exercise.
Precisely. And then there's the peacock's tail analogy. Just like a peacock's feathers are meant to attract mates, music and dance could have been displays of fitness and skill.
So music might have helped our ancestors find love, build communities, and work together.
And don't forget the role of music in memory. Oral traditions, that rely heavily on music and rhythm, have preserved knowledge and stories for centuries.
Wow, music has really worn a lot of hats throughout history. Let's talk about what happens inside our brains when we listen to music. Dr. Daniel Levitin, who's both a neuroscientist and a musician, he used brain imaging to actually see the brain's response to music.
Dr. Levitin found that listening to pleasurable music triggers a huge amount of activity in the reward and pleasure centers of the brain. And it's heavily involved in those pathways? Dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter.
Dopamine, the brain's reward system, in overdrive. But Levitin's research went even further. He also wanted to learn about the role of opioids, the body's natural painkillers, and how much we enjoy music. And the results were pretty surprising.
So in one experiment, they had participants bring in their absolute favorite songs, the ones that give you chills, but they temporarily blocked their opioid activity with all the proper ethical considerations, of course. And as a result, their favorite songs suddenly lost their emotional impact.
So it's not just the melody or the beat that makes music so powerful, it's our brain chemistry too. Levitin also was interested in what makes certain drummers so captivating. What is it about their playing that makes the music so enjoyable?
He thinks that analyzing the precise timing of drum hits in relation to the beat is the key. Even tiny, really small variations, whether a drummer plays slightly ahead or behind the beat, can drastically change how we feel the music.
So it's not just about hitting the drums hard. It's about hitting them at just the right moment.
Exactly. Think about Frank Sinatra's drumming style, always kind of behind the beat, giving his music that relaxed, cool feel. Then you've got someone like Kendrick Lamar, often drumming ahead of the beat, creating a sense of urgency.
It's fascinating how those small timing differences create such different emotional responses.
Yeah, and here's a fun experiment. Listen to Creedence Clearwater Revival, and then listen to John Fogerty's current band. The difference in drumming styles, with the original drummer being behind the beat and the current drummer ahead, creates a completely different feel, even though it's the same songs.
It's like this secret rhythmic language that shapes how we hear the music. We've been talking about how our brains are basically hardwired for music, and maybe it even helped our ancestors, survive. But what I think really connects us to music is its emotional power. A song can bring back a flood of memories, instantly. Sometimes I'll hear a song and it's like, bam, I'm back in a very specific moment. It's almost like a time machine, what's going on in our brains when we have these musical flashbacks.
Music just has this incredible ability to evoke those emotions and memories that other sensory experiences just don't have. Think about how you feel when you hear a song that reminds you of a first love or, a big celebration or even a time of sadness and loss. Those musical memories are like woven into our brains, connected to the emotions we felt at the time.
It's like each song has its own emotional fingerprint, right? Is there one specific part of the brain that's responsible for these emotional connections?
It's not that simple. There's not just one music emotion center. It's more like a complex interaction of different brain regions, each contributing to the overall experience. For example, the amygdala, which helps us process emotions like fear, also plays a role in our emotional response to music. It helps us to recognize the emotional cues in the melody, the harmonies, and the rhythms.
So even though music itself isn't dangerous, the amygdala is still figuring out those emotional signals.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's the hippocampus, which is crucial for memory formation. It's our brain's librarian, organizing and cataloging our memories, including those tied to music. When we hear a familiar song, the hippocampus kicks into gear, pulling up those memories and emotions, bringing back all those feelings from the past.
It's amazing how music can unlock those memory vaults, bringing back such a rush of emotions. So we've got the amygdala processing the emotional content and the hippocampus digging up those associated memories. But what about when music just makes us feel really good, gives us chills, or even, makes us tear up? Where does that raw emotional intensity come from?
That's where the reward pathway that we talked about earlier comes back in, along with a pretty fascinating brain region called the insula. The insula is involved in a bunch of stuff, including processing bodily sensations, emotions, and even self-awareness. When it comes to music, the insula seems to be particularly tuned into those chills we get when we hear something powerful, like, a soaring melody or a big crescendo.
So those goosebumps aren't just a saying, it's an actual physical response driven by the insula.
Exactly, yeah. And here's where it gets really interesting. Research suggests that those chills we get are actually linked to dopamine being released. It's as if our brains are giving us a reward for listening to music that really moves us, that really connects with us on an emotional level.
Music, the brain's own personal dopamine dispenser. If dopamine is involved in that musical pleasure, could music actually be addictive? I mean, I know I've definitely had earworms. Those songs I just can't stop listening to.
That's something that researchers are still trying to figure out. While music doesn't seem to have the same addictive potential as, drugs or alcohol, there's some evidence that suggests it can trigger those same reward pathways in the brain. Think about those songs you just can't get out of your head, the ones you put on repeat. That constant listening could be driven by that dopamine rush your brain gets from hearing those catchy tunes.
It's like our brains are saying, more please, more dopamine.
Exactly. And that leads us to another piece of the puzzle: musical anticipation. You see, our brains are always trying to predict what's coming next, whether it's, a change in the weather or the next word someone's going to say or the next note in a melody. When it comes to music, that anticipation is a big part of why we enjoy it. Think about that feeling you get when you hear the start of a familiar song. Your brain jumps ahead, predicting the melody, the lyrics, the whole emotional trip you're about to take. That feeling of anticipation, that I know what's coming next feeling, that's really rewarding for the brain. And when the music, fulfills those predictions, when we hear those notes and harmonies we were expecting, our brain releases a surge of dopamine, making us enjoy it even more.
It's like our brain is winning a game of guess what happens next.
Exactly, but there's a twist. Our brains also like surprises. If music was totally predictable, always following the same patterns, it would get boring pretty fast. Our brains want novelty, those little twists and turns that keep us engaged and challenge those predictions. That's why a well-placed chord change, a sudden shift in the music's tempo, or an unexpected instrumental solo, those can be really exciting. Those musical surprises kind of mess with our predictions, creating tension and release that keeps our brains, on their toes.
It's like a plot twist in a movie, but with music.
Exactly. And those surprises trigger a ton of activity in the brain involving the reward pathway, the amygdala, and the prefrontal cortex, which helps us make sense of the unexpected.
So our brains are always going back and forth between anticipation and surprise, prediction and reward.
Exactly. And that back and forth is a big part of what makes music so powerful and so captivating.
This has really opened my ears to how complex the connection between music and the brain really is. We've covered some of the evolutionary advantages, the emotional roller coaster, the dopamine, and this whole idea of anticipation and surprise. Music is obviously way more than just entertainment. It's a fundamental part of what makes us human.
It really is. Music is woven into us, shaping our emotions, our memories, even our sense of who we are. It's a universal language that goes beyond culture, connecting us through time and space.
We've talked about music's ability to bring up emotions and memories, but I'm curious about music's ability to, heal. Can music actually make us healthier?
That's something that scientists are really looking into right now. There's more and more evidence that music can have huge therapeutic benefits for all sorts of conditions, from anxiety and depression to chronic pain and, neurological disorders.
So music isn't just something that feels good. It can actually help us heal.
Exactly. And music therapy, using music to, help people, is becoming more and more respected. Skilled music therapists use music to help people in lots of ways. Physically, emotionally, cognitively, socially.
Can you give us some examples of, what that looks like in practice?
Sure. For people who have Parkinson's disease, rhythmic auditory stimulation, which is a technique using rhythmic music, can help them with their movement, balance, and coordination.
So the music helps their brain to relearn how to move more smoothly.
Yeah, exactly. For people with dementia, music can bring back strong memories and emotions, improving their mood, reducing agitation, even helping them communicate.
It's like the music is unlocking those lost memories and breathing new life into them.
Exactly. And for folks with autism spectrum disorder, music can create a more structured, predictable environment, reducing anxiety and helping them with social interaction.
It sounds like music therapy can be adapted to help a lot of people with different needs.
Yeah, absolutely. What's really cool about music therapy is that it's non-invasive, it's enjoyable, and people are often really motivated to participate.
I'm really fascinated by this whole idea of music as medicine. How does music actually work? I mean, how does it do all this?
It's complicated, but some of the key ways it works are emotion regulation. Music can help us manage our emotions, whether it's calming us down when we're stressed or cheering us up when we're feeling low. Cognitive stimulation, music can boost our brain power, improving attention, memory, and language skills. Social connection, music brings people together and creates a sense of community. And physiological effects, music can influence things like our heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing, which can help us to relax and reduce stress.
It's amazing how music affects us in so many ways, from how we feel to our physical well-being. It makes you wonder what other things we'll discover about music, right?
Right. That's the great thing about science. There's always something new to discover, more to learn about the connection between music and us.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive for me. We've gone from the ancient origins of music to the future of brain-computer interfaces. It's obvious that music is much more than just something to listen to. It's a part of who we are.
I hope that you'll listen to music with new ears now, appreciating how complex it is.
Next time you put on those headphones or you go see a concert, remember, you're not just hearing sounds. You're having an experience that's changing your brain and hopefully enriching your life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into music and the brain. We've explored how deeply music is a part of us, from its possible evolutionary roots to its incredible power for healing. But what about the future? What's next for music and the brain? What kind of new discoveries are waiting to be made?
Oh, the future of music and brain research is wide open. As technology keeps advancing, we're learning more and more about how the musical brain works. One area that's super exciting is brain-computer interfaces. Imagine being able to, control musical instruments or create music using just your thoughts.
Whoa, that sounds like something out of a movie. Instead of playing the piano with my fingers, I could just think the notes.
Yeah, exactly. This technology has huge potential for people with disabilities, giving them a new way to express themselves musically. Imagine a world where someone who can't move can conduct a whole orchestra with their mind, or compose symphonies, or just experience the joy of playing an instrument.
It's like music becomes a direct expression of what's going on in our heads.
And it goes way beyond just making music. Brain-computer interfaces could completely change music therapy, too. Someone who's recovering from a stroke, or a brain injury, could use these interfaces to retrain their brain, improving motor functions, speech, cognitive skills, all through musical exercises.
Wow, music could actually help people regain what they've lost.
Yeah, and as we keep unlocking the secrets of how our brains experience and understand music, I think we'll find even more ways to use it for healing. Another really exciting area is personalized music therapy. Think about this. Algorithms analyzing your brain activity, your mood, even your musical taste to create custom playlists. Playlists designed to help you focus better, relax more, or even manage a health condition.
That's like having a personal DJ in your head, playing exactly the right music at the right time.
Right. And this kind of personalized approach could change how we treat mental health conditions, sleep disorders, even chronic pain.
It's amazing to think that music could be used in such a precise way to help us feel better.
As we learn more about the brain's plasticity, its ability to change and adapt throughout our lives, we might even find ways to use music to enhance cognitive function and boost creativity, even in healthy people.
So music could help us to reach our full potential.
The possibilities are really endless.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've gone from the ancient roots of music all the way to the cutting edge of brain-computer interfaces. It's clear that music does so much more than entertain us. It shapes our lives, our emotions, who we are.
Absolutely, and I hope you'll listen to music in a new way now, appreciating that complex symphony happening in your brain every time you hear a song.
Yeah, the next time you put on your headphones or you go to a concert, remember, you're not just listening to sounds. You're taking part in an experience that's changing your brain and enriching your life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of music and the brain. Until next time, keep the music playing.